Okay, let's call this meeting to order. December 6th, 2021, Gold Hill City Council. The roll call, please.
All right, Mayor Studebaker.
Here.
Councilor Bischoff.
Here.
Councilor Hinckley.
Here.
Councilor Wrigley.
Here.
Councilor Palmer. Councilor Wilson. Councilor Gina.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome as here you directing things for our city council meeting.
Thank
Are
you.
there any agenda, Mr. Manager?
I'm sorry, one more time, you were broken up there, Mayor.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
There are no adjustments.
Okay. Announcements, awards, proclamations?
None of those, Mayor. We might want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
None of those?
Pocket
Oh, there's that.
I think
Yeah.
you might be frozen.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Is Brad frozen? Is that what's going on?
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
United States of America, to the
under
republic
God,
which it stands.
liberty and justice. So just proclamations.
Hey, Mayor, we're having a problem with your audio. You're scrambled. Maybe if you turn your camera off, let's see if that helps. Try now without the mute.
Can you hear me now?
That's better. We might have to just go without looking at you today.
Yeah. It may be. Okay. No adjustments to the agenda, no announcements, awards, or proclamations. Do we have any public input? Anyone in the queue, Carrie?
I don't see anybody now.
Okay.
I didn't have
Um,
anything on the email for input either.
And Jerry, you received no letters or any of that to read?
That's correct. Nothing.
Okay. Okay. We have a consent agenda.
Nothing on the consent agenda, Mayor.
Okay. Well, we'll get right into council consideration. 7.1, park host at Gold Hill Sports Park. Jerry, would you address this, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Several months ago, the council elected to place a park host out in the sports park. It's been a work in progress, and each of you have constituents that have reported back to you regarding the success or challenges with that park host. I'm at a point now where we can invest a lot of time continuing. I know there's concerns about the appearance, just aesthetics. And then, as you can see from the staff report that I did, there's some other risks or liabilities that I've identified that we're exposed to. Doesn't mean that it's something we can't do. I just wanted to get clear direction from the council. As you see in the staff report, I talked about residency. Should we have to ask the park host to leave? What that process is? It's difficult. It's a lot different now. When even homeless can establish residency in a public place that they've started staying in. So there's nothing that says that a park host can't do the same thing if we ask them to leave. And I know that we can have agreements in place, and I think everyone's aware of that. Agreements are not always ironclad, and so that still does leave us exposed to some risk. So I wanted to bring that to the council's attention. Liability, again. If a injury has occurred during the performance of their duties, workers' comp will cover that. But, my concern is what if something happens after hours? They become the victim of a crime or damage to the property. What liabilities does the city have when it comes to that? The appearance of the host site. I know there's been attempts to beautify that site to make it aesthetically pleasing. And I know that we've invested some money in preparing that site. So, but it's still the source of some complaints. And it's one of those things where, we're trying to balance the privacy and security of the host and at the same time, make it, again, aesthetically pleasing to our people's eyes. So that's been a challenge. And then the selection process. It's my understanding there really wasn't a selection process. And I agree. I've heard past comments that we need to have a selection process. And should we move forward with this, I would like to redo the selection process, including if the current park host wants to apply. But we need a process so it makes it fair and equitable for everyone. There may be others out there who wanted to compete for that position. We're in the process of hiring a security company, quite honestly, with the exception of some custodial duties. I think that a security company may do better for us. They will be working for us. We can make sure that they are out there. We can require them to do 2 walkthroughs per day of the entire park. We can ask them to open and close the gates. So it may be more effective, since we're going to be paying for security anyway, to rely on security to address the crime, the vagrancy, the vandalism, those types of concerns, which I'm sure were concerns when the park host was initially introduced. And we didn't have the security option before, and the sheriff's department, we certainly couldn't require them to do it. I think that we'll have a lot more flexibility with the security company. And I think that I think they are better equipped, and they have the skills to handle some of the things that we wanted addressed. But I did want to bring it before the council. I know that I may be beating a dead horse because this topic has come up several times since I've been city manager. But I just wanted to hear from the council, give the council an opportunity to reevaluate and determine whether or not we wanted to continue on this path or change directions. And with that, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you, and I'm available for questions.
I think it's important for us to remember really why we thought about this and initiated the program to start. And if we could get a report from you, Jerry. The thing that sticks out to me was our public works department was very frustrated in that they would do improvements only to have people destroy them, break them. I think at one point they tore a sink or mirror off the bathroom wall and stuffed it in the porta potty. Have we had any reports of that kind of damage since we've had a person on site?
Since I've been here, there have not been. I did speak with our park superintendent, and he did say that camping out there is still an issue. And of course, graffiti is still an issue. But as far as damage to our property, other than the vandalism, there hasn't been any significant damage since we've had the park host, or at least since I've been here with the park host.
And by vandalism, you're referring to graffiti?
Yes.
Okay, right. Danielle?
So I see both sides of the issue, and I'm wondering, Jerry, whether or not you think that a hybrid solution might be possible. So potentially we suspend the park host position for now, so that we have the time to get the site cleaned up, properly done and beautified with a proper procedure in place. See how it happens with the security patrolling instead of a park host, but that way we have the proper procedure and site in place for down the line if we choose to go that route and add it in addition to security. And then that way it can all be done very open, very visible to the public in a very correct and communicative way with them so that it's not such a shocker again, as well as the hiring process can actually have a process in place.
Yeah, and I think if we do that, we can ask the actual security personnel, what do they think? Do they think that if we added a park host, would it enhance our efforts out there? Or maybe they say, no, I think we got it. I don't know if there'll be much difference with a park host, but we would have basically boots on the ground to give us that, those insights.
Also, perhaps there's only certain times of the year that we would need a park host, and a steady security report would be able to tell us that, maybe July or dead of winter is the worst time and we need additional help. And then that spot will be in place with procedures.
Yeah.
Malia.
So I know you mentioned it, Jerry, but I just want to emphasize that I really want to make sure that we are having someone open and close the gates, and that we do determine an hour. We still haven't decided if we're going to change the hours and change the ordinance around changing the hours. So I just want to make sure that the gates are being closed and opened according to the hours that the ordinance says that the park is open. And then if we do decide to change the hours, we do need to address that ordinance. And also just make sure that the signage in the park that says when the hours of the park are accurate with when we're opening and closing the gates. I just want to make sure that that's not lost in the shuffle.
Got it.
So I think standardizing via an ordinance, if we need to, the hours of operation and posting them, that's pretty routine. We can adjust the hours on the signs. I was wondering, is there a reason why we didn't put up the park host sign that we had talked about to clearly designate the trailer that's there as being a park host, Jerry?
I haven't been out there, Mayor, but I think we have one out there now. I did a walkthrough with Paige.
I went out this afternoon and there was nothing there.
Okay. I don't think there's one at her RV, but I think the sign as you enter the parking lot, I think it has park host on there. I was out there with Paige about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think I remember seeing it, but I'll double check. Because yes, we have discussed it and it should be up.
I know one of the things that was suggested to me as might make it.
Excuse me. Let me finish my thought, please. That's an obvious way that we can address the uncertainty as to what the RV is doing there in the park. And, that's some had said, well, what's the RV doing there? Maybe that will encourage others to come. And that's possible. But with a sign designating park host, it pretty much takes care of that, as there are park hosts in parks everywhere in Oregon. It's not an unusual concept. It's something people are familiar with. They know exactly. And maybe we can put that on the list coming up here in December of getting a sign in front of the RV so people are clear what that is.
Yeah, and
we can get one done at a quick sign place, plastic with 3 colors for $20.
And again, I think the sign's up because I remember there was off-duty and on-duty options on that sign. I'll double check tomorrow. Well, I won't be here, but I'll double check with Tony. And again, the other challenge, Mayor, is the appearance of the host site itself. Even if we have a park host sign, the way the site is designed right now, it's difficult to tell because there's the bamboo fencing around the RV. And the doors on the side facing the bathroom, those are all things that we're going to have to change if we want a more approachable park host. Again, it's a challenge between personal security and privacy and the openness, availability to the public.
Right. Malia, then Danielle.
So I would like to propose a motion with a change change from the motion that you put in your staff report, Jerry, just a slight one. I'd like to motion to eliminate the park host position, revert the RV site to its original condition, and rely upon a private security company to provide patrols in the park and on the trails. I'd like to add a sentence saying something to the effect of, if in the future we decide to add additional security in the form of a park host, we will approve of the job description and interview and do background checks or to reestablish park host in the future.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Mayor, I
I will
think,
second.
Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, let me just time out. Yeah, because Councilor Hinckley wanted to have some comments, and we should do that before we vote on the motion. Just to make
Right,
sure.
but Malia made a motion. She can certainly comment now. We're discussing.
So my comment was just in regards to perhaps in the future, if we do decide to pursue the park host, having a small office area, kind of like a hut at the entrance to the park, rather than having them do operations from their home, having a separate area during hours of duty when they're sitting there and maybe get electricity to it from the vault toilets or something that would be, they're on duty now, they're approached, they're in a professional setting. It's not their home, which would then, I think, better balance the privacy versus accessibility issue.
So you're really advocating a complete redo of this program, of creating another structure, having them work out of that?
Personally, yes, I would like to see if in the future we decide to come back with this, because the motion on table is to get rid of it completely for right now. I think in the future, if we were to pursue it again, I think there should be two separate sites that are put up. One where the park host actually lives, and one where they're interacted with the public. I think that that's where a lot of the confusion is coming in, and people not feeling safe around where the park host is living with the fence up. It's not visible. I think in the future, having two separate sites, one for working and one for living, would solve a lot of those issues in the future.
Jerry, do we have 10 or 20K in the budget to put up another building?
No, we don't. But
Okay.
the comments are understood. And yeah, I think it'd be a good topic of discussion if this motion carries and down the road we decide we want to incorporate a park host again. I think we would have that conversation again.
Was that motion seconded, Malia?
It
Yeah, I
was not.
seconded it. I seconded the motion.
Okay, you seconded it, Daniel. Okay, Eric and Bill, did you want to weigh in on this conversation?
Not at this moment. I like the idea of being able to revisit if necessary.
We lost you, Bill.
I'm still here.
Okay, sorry. So we just heard the first few words of your sentence. Please repeat.
Oh, all right. I love the idea on the motion. If we are going to revisit the park host later on, we have that availability. That's a good idea.
Eric, any thoughts?
My thoughts are that the whole point of this kind of was to have a presence to detour the crime. So if that isn't happening, I can get behind getting rid of the park host, but if security isn't starting next week, I'm really not going to push for getting rid of the park host. I mean, it's money. The fact of the matter is, if we move them out of there and people start going in there and messing our stuff up, it costs us money. Really the only argument I have against the park host is the whole, I think there's a little bit too much of a gray area between them being a volunteer and an employee, so we kind of need to have a clear description. You know, I mean, this whole thing's kind of screwy, and my big picture thing is this: it's kind of a community thing, and you know, reality is everybody needs to be involved. We can't expect the park host or the security, because I mean, the reality of the situation is this: dude, the security drives through, and then the dudes come out of the bushes and they break our stuff, and then that's that. There can't be someone there 24 hours a day. This looks like maybe there's someone there 24 hours a day, and a lot of time that's all it takes to deter crime. You know, I think that people that are interested in the subject should be listening to these meetings behind the scenes, and then they would know what's going on, and there wouldn't be a question about what was going on. And that is all.
Well, that's a good point. That the bottom line is, since we've had this person on site, we've had no big destruction. And that is why we started this. Is it perfect? No, it's not. It was started on a shoestring with almost no money. And we needed to get something in place because we were having park benches and things broken. And I guess I would also think back a couple of years when we pushed out a neighborhood watch group, and someone in my neighborhood, she complained that next year, she had her place broken into 3 times. This is not a shock. We knew this was going to happen. That is the nature of deterrence, of having a presence. And I think I would tend toward what Eric is advocating of. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And until we get a better replacement, let's not leave it naked. Danielle.
So I would argue that what you're stating is actually correlation and not causation. We've only had the park host there temporarily, and we haven't had any big destruction. You're right. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's because the park host is there. We have some derelicts that move in and out of town due to I-5, and perhaps the person who was causing the destruction has since moved on. We don't know whether or not that was the park host that deterred that. And we wouldn't know until we try something different, like the security, seeing whether or not the deterrent continues potentially into next summer, as well as getting a report from them of what the incidents are. Which is why I want to leave the option of going back to the park host and asking security whether or not they need additional help. But also, I would like to ask whether or not Malia would be willing to amend her motion to say that because there's going to take time, we have to give the current park host notice. And whether or not you would like to amend the motion to include that we would not get rid of the park host until security is in place, which should give her plenty of time to get her stuff together and find another place to move her trailer to, which I think would be very generous.
It's a little irregular, but Malia, would you like to amend as Daniela suggested?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I'm thinking maybe if we can get, I don't know, Carrie, can you put that up on a Word document real quick, the motion with the amendments that we've talked about, so that we can see it? Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but we've added two major amendments, and I don't want to really ask for a vote on them without being able to really see it.
Yeah, I was taking notes here, so let me get some stuff typed up real quick.
Okay, thank you.
Put myself on mute for a second.
Jerry, do we have a timeline on when the security can start?
I'm hoping within the next month, but no, not an exact timeline.
Okay.
Does that have to come back before city council before you can
Yes.
hire them? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's at least February, whatever.
I know personally, I feel badly to put somebody out over the holidays. And so I think regardless of how this motion goes, that it would be appropriate to wait until after the holidays to give notice for somebody to vacate the area, because I don't like the idea of putting somebody out in the middle of December.
I mean, you can even make it effective 30 days after security comes on board, and that buys time, because you guys are right. We will have to bring the security contract to council for approval. And then there will probably be a 2 weeks time period for implementation. So that does buy some time. And then staff has clear direction on where we're going.
Jerry, do you have a sense of when our private security might be on board?
I do not. We're working on it, and yeah, I don't have an exact time.
So there's a lot of uncertainty and some unknowns here, but we do have a motion and a second. Malia, shall we just stick with your original motion with the amendment of the time frame on restructuring that position, or eliminating it until we restructure it is indeterminate and will be in 2022?
I think I asked Carrie to give us a written motion with those amendments in it. I'd like to see that before we vote. Carrie, we can't hear you. You're muted.
So I just took some notes out on a Word document. It's not in a format of any kind at this point.
Okay, can you do a screen share or something like that so we can see it?
The host is disabled screen sharing. I can email it to you guys really quick.
Oh, Marvin's gonna fix that.
Okay.
Marvin's working.
So in the meantime, if everybody can put your Zoom screen on full screen, you'll be able to see the document and everybody's faces still.
Yes. So,
Okay.
can you see the Word doc?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we just have the words with, the motion at the beginning. Okay. Does that satisfy everyone's?
Well, it's your motion. Is that satisfactory to you?
That's satisfactory to me as a second.
Yes, so
Okay.
that's fine.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Carrie.
Okay. Counselor Bishop,
Yes.
Counselor Hinckley,
Yes.
Counselor Rigney,
Yes.
Counselor Gina.
Yep,
I'm sorry, is that yes or no?
yes.
Okay. The motion is passed. I will get that typed up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, City of Gold Hill Ethics Committee, 7-2. Jerry, do you want to address that?
Thank you, Mayor, and the members of the council. Actually, these next 3 items are just discussion items, and they're going to be real quick updates. September of 2020, the council passed a resolution creating an ethics committee for the city. As we all know, we still don't have one in place. I have one application that I believe is still active. I just want, again, I just want to make sure that we're still wanting to go in that direction. And if so, I will have staff placed on the website and solicit for applications for the ethics committee. I only bring this up because this has been mentioned to me in conversations with individual council members, and I don't want you to think that it's been ignored. So I want to address it and make sure that we're still on the same track. And if so, we'll move forward.
Danielle.
So Jerry, I wanted your advice on this with your experience as far as municipal government is concerned. So given that we've had difficulty in filling the position, I'm wondering about conflict of interest, since really it's only the council and senior management such as yourself that would be subject to the ethics committee. Would it be appropriate for a lower tier employee to potentially be able to fill one of those positions if they were interested in doing that, especially because it's their work environment, and
Mhm.
they would be more apt to potentially see or be able to bring up a potential ethics violation.
That's a great question. As a reminder, there are other avenues that are in place where we can report ethics violations through the League of Cities, the state, and even probably through RV-COG. Allowing employees, well, if we were unionized, employees would do that through a grievance. If an employee was on an ethics committee, my only concern would be, number one, their fear of retaliation. Because if, for instance, they can file a violation or a complaint against any of you or me, there may be a fear of retaliation. It also, I've seen this happen where when someone does file a complaint against a supervisor or a council member, and then that employee actually has to be disciplined for something that's legit, they kind of created protection, some insulation, because they can say that it's retaliation on our part because they filed a complaint. So I do think it's problematic. I'm not sure that's something that we want to endeavor just because of those concerns. And it's concerns on both
Understandable.
sides.
That's why I asked,
Yeah.
because it was an idea I had and I thought you might have a solution. So, okay, but thank you.
Sure.
Jerry,
For one, oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I was just going to say, it's in our charter. We should have one if we have a level of participation that can support it. To date, we just haven't had 3 applicants to form one. Is there anyone opposed to having an ethics committee?
Basically, yes, due to the redundancy of the situation with LOC and the state and everyone else that has an ethics committee that has some teeth. If a citizen or one of our employees has a problem with us, they can go right to somebody that's got some teeth, like the state. So the redundancy of our local ethics committee with the myriad of petty problems that can come with that it looks problematic to me. I think we stay with the big one. If it's in the charter, is it actually in our charter that we must have an ethics committee?
I don't think I have an answer for you, council member. I can look it up.
I don't believe that the ethics committee is in the charter, but we did pass an ordinance to create one. So I think that if we were to rescind that, it would require another ordinance to rescind the creation of the ethics committee.
Okay, so we either have an ordinance or it's in the charter. Either way, that's how we're governing the city right now. So it's in place. I think to date, the issue has simply been level of participation. That's why we don't have an active one right now.
And Councillor Rigney, I think that the purpose of the ethics committee and what we agreed on at that time, and I still very much back, was the idea that you solve problems at the lowest possible level. And if you can solve what appears to be an ethics violation that may not be an ethics violation at the local level, you prevent continued expense at higher levels while still having the availability to appeal to a higher authority such as the state if you're unhappy with what the ethics commission at the local level determined. I think it was just a matter of having local review before going to state review. And then that way somebody could pursue if it turned out that it was a grievous ethical violation, and they would have the local ethics commission backing them. But also that it may make it more difficult going forward if the local ethics commission found it against.
I see your point, Counselor. What I'm thinking is basically, again, on the redundancy and the lack of excuse me, mission and scope of what the ethics committee would be, what would specifically they be involved with. I mean, ethics violations that's a very wide, very large swath.
I always understood it to be the state ethics code. What you may be found guilty of at the state level, you may be found guilty of at the local level, but perhaps that is something that we should look into, is whether or not we need to form a local ethics code before we implement the ethics commission, so that they have a better idea of exactly what their scope is.
Actually, I think that's in the charter. I think there's a code of ethics laws in the charter. Worth looking at.
It just seems to me that we basically are our own ethics committee, because I rest assured, if you have a problem with me on an ethical level, I should be reported to the state, as the same goes for any of you with me.
That's true. So where are we? Shall we re-advertise this for interested parties?
Yeah, and at this point, that's the only direction I can take. We can't take action. So if you were wanting to no longer have an ethics committee, we would have to take that to the next council meeting as an action item. We don't have to have any action if we're going to continue. I guess I'm just looking for each councilor's nod saying, let's move forward. And that way we can advertise for it and see if we can attract any applicants.
My constituency still supports an ethics commission.
I'm not opposed to it. I think we should continue, but I have my doubts about being able to fill it. When we have a pool of 500 registered voters and we want 3 of those people to volunteer to, investigate their neighbors, I think that's why we can't get anybody to do it. We have a really small pool and nobody wants to be involved in investigating their neighbors. So I'm not opposed to it. And the charter says we have to have it. So until we get an ordinance saying we don't have to have it, we have to have it. So we need to continue unless somebody wants to make a motion to get rid of it. I'm not willing to do that either.
That.
Eric, want to weigh in on this?
Again, this just goes into bodies wanting to volunteer. I think if we want to build an ethics committee, we should put a requirement of we need to have X amount of people to actually build and complete it. Otherwise we have like 2 or 3 guys that are gonna go banny rooster on us or whatever. People being afraid to say that you don't want to add this ethics committee because it looks bad on you is, I don't know, I think it's silly. There's other avenues and we have bigger fish to fry, honestly. I think if you really want to take care of something, you do need to go to the higher level, and there are avenues for people to talk about ethics. That's why we're all here. Jerry's here and Carrie's here. We're all supposed to be diplomatic in our own right. So there's no reason that ethics can't be brought to the council people to begin with. I just think committees on top of committees on top of committees it honestly just adds conflict. It makes less things get done.
Well, it sounds like we have positions on both sides of the issue. Jerry, can we table this until January?
Yeah, yes. The quick answer is yes. I'm just trying to figure out how I bring it back next council meeting. Do you want to just do another discussion item? Because I think we're going to have the same discussion. Can I do this, Mayor? Can we leave it open? And if there is a majority of the council that want, or actually, if there is a council member that wants to put it on the agenda as an action item, whether to keep it or not, I think that would probably be more appropriate. Otherwise, The resolution's already in place, and by resolution, we are mandated to move forward with it. And again, I brought it forward just because it's been mentioned to me, but there hasn't been any movement on it. I just wanted the council to know that it's still in the back of my mind. We still have to make something happen. But Mayor, if it's okay, if I get something from an individual council member that they wanted on the agenda as an action item, then we can do that. Will that suffice?
Yeah, it sounds like it. It just sounds like we have strong opinions on both sides. We've been talking about this for 6 months at least. And maybe it's, I don't think anyone was super prepared tonight. I was surprised to see it on the agenda. So it is, as Malia rightly pointed out, it's on the books, so it's there. Until we change it, we're obligated. The issue has really been participation. So why don't we table this, and we'll entertain motions in the January meeting to proceed with it and advertise, or to discontinue it. How does that sound?
That's fine.
Okay.
Councilor Hinckley has comments.
Danielle?
I would actually like to request on the January agenda that a review of all of our committees and the list of current functioning and defunct committees be on the table for discussion for the council, because I know some of our committees are short. Some of them seem to have had more popularity. And I think it's a good time to it's been a year now for the committees to kind of look at and review, perhaps see where some committees could be motioned to be taken off the table, but perhaps other committees added on. I wanted to consider the council forcing Chamber of Commerce. I think that's a committee that has been long left by the wayside that should be considered, that perhaps it needs some council support to get up and off the ground. So I think January meeting would be a good time to kind of review the last year and look forward to the next.
Okay. Carrie, you got that on our agenda for next time?
Yes, I've been taking notes, so I can put that
Thank
on
you.
for next agenda.
Very good. Good discussion. Okay, next item, website update.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just want to briefly update everybody on what we've got going on the website. We've met with Marvin, and he is continuing to work on it. It's my understanding he's got a little time off this month, and he is graciously opted to do some work on the website. So hopefully we'll have something to report back in the next meeting as far as progress. But it is moving forward, and I think we're going to have a lot of cool functions to present to the council.
And maybe we can have that as an agenda item in January. That will give him the month that he's got some time, and see what he's got and present it to us in January, and then we'll go from there.
You got it.
In-person meetings discussion. Where, from your vantage point, Jerry, what are you hearing from other municipalities?
I haven't actually. I can tell you with us, I think we were wanting to go live based on the council's desire from the last meeting. Like I put in the, I sent you an email. Basically, Spectrum just came last week, and one of the things I want to do before we do in person is just make sure it all works, and that's going to take coordination with Marvin and I wanted to do a test meeting with not necessarily the council, but have a couple people involved in this test meeting just to make sure that all the bugs are worked out before we went live. So I'm hoping by January, if the council's still in favor of going live or a hybrid, then we can do that in January.
And what's the date that Spectrum is discussing to come and do our upgrades?
It's done. They did it last Tuesday, was it, Carrie? I think it was Tuesday.
So now it's a matter of testing before we
That's
go
correct.
live.
That's correct.
Jerry, I did want to ask you, have you seen an improvement in the internet speed and clarity since they've done those upgrades for you guys?
We have with the, now, Mayor, are you in the facility right now?
I am.
Yeah, with the exception of tonight, I did notice that the speeds were quicker when we were on the internet, and the Zoom meetings I've been in, I haven't had any complaints from the other side of the camera. People have been able to understand us. And Councilor Beachside, we were in a meeting last week. Everything look okay? Yeah.
Okay, just for my own clarification, because I have been involved in the upgrade. Mayor, where are you located in the building? Are you on the other side of the building?
Yeah,
It could be the stone walls between where the modem is and him.
Yeah, it could be.
could be. Yeah,
And we're hardwired. So Mayor, you probably Wi-Fi?
yes.
Yeah. Got it. So that's where we're at with the in-person meetings.
So we'll kind of do a dry run test, see how it works, and make a decision from there.
Yes.
OHA regulations are permitting live meetings and citizens to come in and sit in the audience and add their 2 cents.
Yes. Again, there'll be social distancing and masks. But yes, we'll have to block off certain seats within the audience to make sure that that social distancing is respected. But yes, we can do it.
Okay, thank you. Malia?
Well, I just wanted to mention the social distancing and masking situation as well. And we need to be compliant with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else on the in-person meetings? Any reports from counselors? Any working groups that you've gone to that you'd like to report back to us? Malia?
Yeah, so I attended, along with Jerry, the LOC Small Cities meeting last week. It was pretty interesting. I guess they do these quarterly or something. So it's for our region, Region 7. Representatives from all the small cities were there. So it was just interesting to see that they did kind of a roundtable thing where everybody could talk about what their city's working on. And it was, you know, obviously everybody's working on being prepared for the next big wildfire. And there's this talk about using cameras that RVCOG is working on. I don't know, Jared, maybe you know more about that than I do, but that sounded pretty cool. And then also, of course, talking about like electronic warning systems where, you know, you blast out text messages and emails and voicemails and things like that to everyone, letting them know about an emergency, and then also electronic reader boards. So, you know, everybody else is kind of struggling with the same issues about all of that we are. I'd sure like to see us, you know, continuing to make progress on all of that. Another thing a lot of cities are working on is getting broadband, and I think that's something we should be looking at, you know, encouraging, what is it? That company that starts with an H. I can't think of it. That somebody
Hunter
knows.
Communications.
Yes, thank you, Hunter. Get Hunter to bring in broadband here, since, you know, the only option in Gold Hill is charter, and you know, it's really prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. Charter's relatively expensive, but you know, if you really need to have good internet, it's really your only option. So it'd be really cool to be able to give people a less expensive option. And there's grants available for that. I don't know if I got that website, Jerry, if we want to follow up on that. Myrtle Creek is working with ODOT on safe routes to school. Danielle, I know that's something close to your heart. I don't know if you've talked to ODOT about, they do have a program called Safe Routes to School where they come in and look at your community and help you figure out safer routes to schools. Anyway.
Yeah, it's mainly, I know I've touched on it with ODOT, and I've kind of gotten the brush off. It's on our list. Go on about your way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Phoenix is doing something cool. They're doing a food truck court, and I know that has, you know, kind of made the rounds here in Gold Hill. I know the Chinese food truck seems to be doing great business. It'd be really great to maybe expand that somehow if we could. Just, you know, other ways of getting people into the downtown area. And also, of course, benefits for all of us. So
I know, really quick, if I can break in, Malia, I know we talked about putting electricity downtown, and specifically for a food truck pallet, I think it would be nice to try and find a central location that might be able to be hooked up to that same power. When we go to do that project with the transportation money, I think that that might be considered by the budget committee.
Where would we do that?
Well, they were talking about putting power in the library park downtown,
library
and
park,
I know
yeah.
right over there is
Right.
that lot that Swede owns that sometimes lets people rent it out for $1. So we might look at considering what a more permanent lease.
That's all I had from that.
Thank you, Malia. Thanks for being part of that. Anyone else? Department reports. Carrie, talk to us.
Say Carrie or Jerry?
Carrie, both of you two. Go ahead, Carrie, with the C.
I don't really know what to do here.
You know, this is just an opportunity. Yeah, this is your first time through. This is an opportunity we have available for you to give a report on, you know, your activities, your findings, audit updates, that sort of thing. We certainly don't want to put you on the spot, but it's a nice chance for us to hear what you've been working on and progress that's being made.
So really, it's just been a lot of training for the last 3 or 4 weeks now. Had to fight with payroll a little bit this morning to get that done, and learning the system. And then I go on and I read a bunch of stuff on the website and look at the charters and look at some of the codes, because I had a resident call because the neighbor had a noisy rooster. So I had to figure out what to do with that. And then just meeting people to come in to pay their water bill. So right now it's just a lot of learning still, but it's going pretty good.
Carrie, if it helps you with your update, I know in the new year, the finance committee will be meeting with Carrie and Jessica in order to get our reconciliations done for 2021 fiscal year, and we should be ahead of the game on our audit coming up once we get the reconciliations done.
Okay, yeah.
Jerry, anything else to add?
Well, first off, I think Carrie's selling herself short. She's been doing a lot more than what she's admitting to. She's doing a bang up job here at City Hall. Man, it's just amazing the transition that she's made. And of course, she had a good teacher because, you know, Jessica is a wealth of information, but Carrie's a sponge. So those two together has just been outstanding. I've had Carrie looking up financial policies for us, and we've about got that ready to present to the council. We've got one more policy to go along with it, but she's been awesome having her here. So anything that I mentioned that we need training on, she's looking it up, you know, Public Records Act, maybe if there's a city recorders group or association, I want her involved in that. So she's really doing a lot for the city. As far as the city overall, you guys may have noticed there's a vacuum truck driving around. I want to say it was Thursday and today. 2 reasons. We've had some local storm drain issues that were identified as problems by some residents. We've taken care of those to the extent that we can. And then we've also had some water main or meter breaks that we had to explore and fix. And the other reason that we had them out here is for the whole Swedes storm drain issue. As you know, we thought we had a plan of attack for that issue down there at Swedes, and turns out that our plan of attack wouldn't have worked. We would have squandered away $50,000 for nothing, because what we thought was a problem wasn't the problem. And it's been difficult because we've been relying on plans that the engineer reviewed, and the plans say that the storm drains go one way, and then when we actually clean them out or throw water down them, the water's not going where the plans say they are. So Shannon's doing a bang up job. We have a GIS mapping program, and every time he addresses one of these issues, whether it's a water meter, storm drain, anything that's infrastructure related, he's tagging it on a map. So this stuff is memorialized now. We no longer have to depend on institutional memory. we'll actually have it available to us on the computer. It's web-based, so anybody can access it. Well, anybody that has authorization. So that's what we've been doing for the last few days, water related. I will tell you that our storm drains are in very bad shape. We can clean the vaults out. We can throw water down downstream, and it comes up with a block. And you know, some pipes are like this, where they're not connecting, they're off. Some, you know, they're just completely blocked. So we've jetted them. We've done everything we can, but it's going to take a lot of time and money to get our storm drains to where they need to be, and it won't happen tomorrow. But at least we're finding storm drains that we didn't know exist. We find storm drains that go nowhere. They might go a foot into under the road and just come to a stop. We're finding all kinds of things right now. So that's one of the big projects that we've had going for the last few weeks, is just identifying these issues. And then of course, Christmas festivities. The city staff has been trying to help do as much as we can with lights in the downtown area. They did a nice job. It's, you know, it's always a challenge with lights because they don't always want to work for you. And that's either personally or with the city. They just never, you know, you can never get 100% compliance, but we're doing the best we can with that. And I think that's all I have to report, Mayor. And Mayor, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Hate it when I do that. Jerry, did you want to briefly address the $25,000 grant for the Muni Code update?
Yeah, sure. And I wish I had that letter available. We were notified. In fact, I just saved that letter. We did receive a grant for $25,000 to address land use ordinances for the city of Gold Hill, which encompasses a lot. Ryan actually applied for the grant for us. Obviously did a great job getting the funds. So we'll start working with Ryan on going through our ordinances and start addressing any type of land use ordinance that needs to be amended. So that'll tie in the future with code enforcement as well. So I think it's great. It's a great win for us.
Thank you for facilitating that. And thank you, Ryan Nolan, for running that through. And Carrie, again, we're super happy you're here. Thank you for your hard work and your understated competence. Let's just keep plowing ahead. We got lots of work ahead of us, but everyone's grinding and progress.
Thank you.
Better in 22. Okay, with that, thank you for everyone's efforts tonight. Thanks for the conversation. Yes. Yes.
Did I miss good of the order?
Sorry.
Did I miss the part for the good of the order?
Oh, good of the order. Go ahead.
Okay. So as I recall, in January last year, we did goals for the year, city council goals. So I'm guessing that ought to be on the agenda for January again. And I think that if we do that, I think we should do that at a separate council meeting like we did last year. Don't think we should attack it in an agenda or on top of another agenda. Also, I'd like to propose that we standardize a process for reviewing the goals. It seems to me that we wrote the goals in January and we basically haven't revisited them since then. I think that we should probably quarterly revisit the goals and talk about our progress on the goals. I feel like we just wrote those goals last January, and I don't think we've made much progress on them, and we really haven't talked about them. So I think we need to tighten up the process for staying on target with our city council goals, and maybe that means making fewer goals. But I really think that we need to take them more seriously and really be looking at them throughout the year and progress on them. Thanks.
Yeah, we always do want to be driven by our goals. Of course, there was that infection, and we've had city management turnover to a very large degree. So we've had a lot on our plate. But Carrie, that will be on. Are you advocating for a work session, Malia? I think that sounds good. Let's do a work session. We'll do a work session after our city council.
Okay.
Danielle,
So I actually have two goods of the order. The first one is to tell everyone and everyone in the town how beautiful the town looks. And I very much appreciate the organizations in town that have been working towards lighting up downtown. It's beautiful. It looks beautiful every year, but this year they are doing a smashing job in town, making Gold Hill look like a picture. And the second good of the order is to remind everybody, again, next year is an election year. Of course, Carrie has to go through her elections training, but word should be put out as soon as possible to residents that there are positions and seats that are coming available this year, as well as I know in previous years, we've been a little slow and not very informative on getting out the election paperwork and exactly what it is that citizens have to do to complete that paperwork. So the sooner we can get that educational process this year, I think we might get a better turnout as far as people who are wanting to run for these seats.
it's a great suggestion, Danielle. Why don't we put you in charge of spearheading that effort of educating the public and kind of standardizing things?
I can
Mhm.
definitely do that. I can, Carrie, if you're available after the holidays, we can get together and get all that stuff standardized.
Yeah, just let me know.
Anything else? Enjoy our holidays, enjoy our festive downtown, and we will see everyone after holidays. Meeting's adjourned.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.